All right. Welcome to the first Words of Wisdom from Dr. Hidalgo. I've honestly never done a live YouTube, and so I'm hoping that this streams. Either way, we'll see what happens, and whatever goes wrong today will not go wrong a week from now. So I am inspired to start this YouTube channel because I'd really like to help students set themselves up for the absolute best semester of their lives. And so first, I just kind of want to briefly state who I am and why I know I can help you. I am Dr. Tori Hidalgo. I am an associate professor at the University of Arizona. I primarily teach general chemistry, which is my I always say my heart lies in the general chemistry classroom. And really the reason why my heart is there is because I love the students so much. And I have been teaching for 15 years now, and I've really learned a lot about the struggles that most students who come into the university life face. I also really struggled as a college student, and I've learned a lot of tools and have been able to create a lot of success for my students. Sometimes I hear that they had given up on their STEM career or that they were going to switch majors because they struggled so hard their first year of college. And it was really utilizing some of the tools that I taught them that allowed them to gain some faith in themselves and find that they were more than capable of achieving what they originally thought maybe they were no longer cut out for. And so I will say that I also very much struggled. And I found out I was dyslexic at a very young age. I was in second grade and I didn't know what it meant. I just was essentially told that I needed to go see a tutor every day at recess. So while my friends were out playing, I was seeing somebody about my reading and math. And I went to a summer camp called Landmark. I'm originally from Hawaii, and my parents shipped me all the way a huff to Landmark University, which is in Pride's Crossing, Massachusetts. And it was specifically to help dyslexic students learn to learn. So I learned a lot of tools there. And I still sort of use my dyslexia as a cop out, to be perfectly honest. I did have to work a little bit harder than most of my peers and just kind of figured I was stupid and got out of high school. I was at a college prep, school called Punahou School in Hawaii, and we were sort of supposed to go off to the mainland and go to college, which is what I did because that was kind of what I was ingrained to believe I was supposed to do. And I instantly flunked out. So I started working as a waitress and worked as a waitress for a few years and really just realized I worked with some women who were in their 70s who were still waiting tables or still serving drinks, and I did not want to do that with my life. So I decided to go back to school. I was much more serious about it. I was willing to put in the time, and I utilized a lot of the techniques that I had learned both in high school and at this summer camp Landmark, and was able to find a lot of success. I was originally a physical therapy major. I fell in love with chemistry, decided to switch majors despite extreme anxiety over all of the math involved, and ended up graduating on the Dean's List magna cum laude from the University of Washington with my undergraduate degree, and eventually went to the University of Arizona where I earned my doctorate degree in computational and physical inorganic chemistry. But I fell in love with teaching. I struggled so much as a student. I became very interested in educational sciences. And just like I followed my heart to chemistry, I followed my heart into the classroom. And I have found just so much purpose in helping my students. Anybody who has taken my class will say I get overly excited about the chemistry. I absolutely love the chemistry, but it is helping the students find their purpose and find their way to success that really just drives me to be the best I can absolutely be in the classroom. And so that's why I started this channel. There's only so much that I can help in the chemistry classroom. I can only help students who come to me in office hours or give little tidbits of information. And I have so much more that I want to give. And I've really noticed that after COVID, even more people are struggling with the same types of issues they were struggling with prior to COVID. They just seem exaggerated. And so I want to take an opportunity to start this channel and help students more. And I also have always told my classes that if I wasn't a teacher, I'd be a motivational speaker. And I give these words of wisdom from Dr. Hidalgo talks every year. It sort of lets me live out my motivational speaking dream once a year. And I always start those out with, to be old and wise, you must first be young and dumb. And I killed the young and dumb part. So my idea here is to help you all avoid stupid mistakes by sharing mine. And so I'm going to start off with my first stupid mistake that I made, which was thinking I could absolutely kill it in college and wing it. And I learned very quickly that I could not wing it and be successful. And I also was working as a waitress. I wanted to have some sort of a life outside of my studies. And in order to make sure I was able to work, earn a high GPA, as well as live a life, I really need to implement a routine in my life. And so from this stupid mistake of thinking I could wing it, I found my first little tidbit of wisdom, which is that the secret to success lies in your daily routine. And so we're getting very close to the beginning of the semester. And I think it's time that everybody start considering part of their routine. And we still have time to work through this routine so that we don't feel like the semester just kicks us in the teeth when it starts. And I do also want to say that a lot of what I'm going to talk about here is something that will likely evolve as the semester progresses. So I want you to always remember to be as flexible as possible with things and recognize that just because you thought this was going to work to begin with and find that it's not actually as successful for yourself as you were hoping, that that's totally normal. And so you're just going to figure out the areas that aren't really working and how you can change those so that they will work. And I really like to relate everything to cooking because I love to eat and I'm a chemist, and that's kind of like the most fun synthesis that there is. And it ultimately doesn't really matter what my pots and pans are that I'm using, but the ingredients that I'm using are very important. So I want quality ingredients, and that's what I'm here to try to give you, are a bunch of quality ingredients. But it's your recipe. So I want you to work with these ingredients and add your own and put in your secret sauce as necessary and really manipulate this recipe so that it's your own and it gives you the success that you want. So I'm just going to talk about the two extremes to the day. So first of all, I really believe that setting ourselves up for success starts with a strong morning routine. But I also strongly believe that you can't have a strong morning routine if you don't have some sort of night routine implemented into your schedule. Now, I'm great with my morning routine. My night routine, I'm still working on it. But I do follow one thing very strictly, which I will get to in a little bit. But my morning routine, like I said, it's really kind of near and dear to my heart, and it does vary depending on the day. And I'll talk about that a little bit when I give my sort of suggestions. But I very much suggest that the first thing that you do is pull out your class schedule and figure out when you need to wake up in the morning. And this is really up to you and how you work best. We all work on a what's called circadian rhythm, which is a 24-hour rhythm. And it's really important for yourself to figure out when your high productivity parts of the day are. And I'm going to do one of these on sleep and talk a lot more about this. But I used to be really resistant about this, that I can go to sleep whenever I want to and I can wake up whenever I want to. But it turns out that science did not throw a secret party and not invite me. And I too am on this 24-hour schedule. And the more I can stick to the schedule, the more productive I am and the better I feel. So I like to have a wake up time of 5 a.m. That's when I choose to wake up. And the first thing that I'm going to tell you in terms of a few things I highly recommend that you keep in here, no matter how resistant to them you are, is that you do not hit your snooze button. Now, when I was just winging it in college and kind of, doing my thing and then recognizing at the end of the day that, oh crap, I have an exam I need to prepare for or an assignment that I need to finish. And then I would stay up really late, but I still needed to get up the next day to go to class. I am old enough, I will say, to have no cell phones at the time. So I had about 3 different alarms that were set up, and I had them go off at the exact same time in the morning so that they were loud enough to wake me up. And I would still hit the snooze bar 900 times. Sometimes I would completely miss class, until I started to put my alarm in a place that required me to stand up to turn it off. And then I would stand up to turn it off, and I would not go back to sleep because I would just feel like such a loser if I went back to bed after that. And so this was my way, and still something that I do to this day, to prevent me from hitting that snooze button. And I will say that it's tough. Like the first 30 seconds of my day kind of suck. But it turns out that, and when I do my live on sleep, the hitting the snooze button puts you in something which is called sleep inertia. And so we all have sleep cycles, and these sleep cycles are 75 to 110 minutes, according to science. And when you hit that snooze button, no matter how tired you feel, you're awake and your brain is ready to get up. So when you go back to sleep or hit the snooze button, go back to bed, you are putting yourself back into that sleep cycle. And that sleep cycle has to continue now for 90 minutes, but you're not going to give yourself 90 minutes to complete the sleep cycle. And you're just going to keep hitting snooze, and you put yourself in a state of brain inertia. And that's, like you hit the snooze button and you recognize like, oh my God, I can't believe 10 minutes has passed already, and you are in deep sleep. And that's because you've shoved yourself back into the sleep cycle that your brain is not capable of getting out of. And science shows us that it takes about 4 hours for you to get rid of that really like groggy feeling that you have when you do this to yourself. So if there's one thing that you really stick to, it is not to hit the snooze button. And science also shows that the first 2 hours that you wake up are the most productive, where your brain is the most functional. And I do believe that we all have our own circadian rhythm, and some people are night owls and some people are morning people, but the science is the science, and those first 2 hours are critical. And you're screwing yourself over by hitting that snooze button and not giving yourself that time available to yourself, and shoving your brain into the sleep inertia stage where now you're just thinking, oh my God, I had the worst night's sleep. Like I just can't sleep, when really you're the one who screwed yourself through that snooze button. So don't hit that snooze button. Again, quick trick, put your phone in a different part of the room or someplace that you have to stand up to turn it off if you use your phone, whatever it is that you use to wake up with. The other thing that I really like to do is I like to do a little bit of a workout in the morning. So I walk my dog, and I highly recommend that if you have a dog, you walk the poor thing, or take yourself for a little bit of walk, do a little bit of meditation, do a little bit of yoga, do something to really give yourself some time to center yourself. And then I personally really like to work out. So it depends on my day. I usually do both a little bit of cardio and a little bit of lifting. So a lot of mornings I'll just hit the cardio, and then I'll get ready for my day, have my breakfast, make my coffee, whatever it happens to be. Um, some days I'll do both. I will do a little bit of cardio and I'll do my lift. But some days my days are just packed. So I know I have to do both before I hit my day. Other days I know I'm going to want to break. And so I'll just do my elliptical in the morning or whatever cardio I choose to do that day. And then I save my lifting session for later on in the afternoon so that I can kind of decompress a little bit halfway through the day, get everything back together, and then finish off my day strong. So my morning routine does vary depending on what the rest of my daily schedule looks like, but it always consists of some form of exercise first thing in the morning. And so after I do those things, then I make my coffee, have my breakfast. Sometimes I do a little bit of journaling, and then I hit up my email. And I try to avoid my phone for this entire period. Like this is my time for me to figure out my day. And I find it, as soon as I get on social media or I do whatever, like I've kind of screwed myself that way as well, because I'm wasting my time and I'm not really focused on myself and really centering myself. So those are the things that I very much like to do in the morning. I know some people who will go get coffee somewhere, so they'll do everything that they need to do, get ready, and then they leave a little bit earlier than I might. But the most successful people I have and all of the like books I read on very successful people in the world all have some sort of really set daily routine that they have set for themselves. And again, how you're going to structure your morning routine is going to be best for you. So you need to kind of play with it. Those are just some ideas that you might want to throw in and give yourself a try. But scientifically speaking, the best thing you can do for yourself is not hit that snooze alarm and stay true to your circadian rhythm and try to get up at the same time every day. So now, if you're going to get up at this time, it's really important that you also have a set bedtime. And especially if you're new to college, you're thinking, I'm finally out of the house and my parents aren't around and I don't want to give myself a set bedtime. What are you talking about? I want to remind you, and this is something that I'm constantly trying to remind my students of, which is you are not in college to get a certain grade or a specific GPA. And while both of those things are really important, especially depending on what it is you plan on doing in your future, you are ultimately building a life for yourself. And in order to live the life that you are hoping to build for yourself, you need to start acting that part now. And I'm not saying don't enjoy the college life. Like, I think it's really important to enjoy your time in college and do the activities that are not scholastically related. But I do highly recommend that you have some sort of structure in your day so that you can balance this out. And I am going to talk about next week how you can fill in the time between your morning routine and your night routine that will allow you to find this balance so that you're not spending 100% of your time on academics or 100% of your time on the college life, but you're able to find a balance and be really successful while living the life that you want to live. But science is also starting to show that it's less important in terms of how much sleep that you get and more important for your sort of health and well-being and your mind to go to bed at the same time every night. And I very much work for myself. I have found that 7 hours of sleep is best for me. I tend to not even do as well if I get a little bit more sleep than 7 hours, and 6 hours is okay. But 7 hours has been what I have found to allow me to have my most productive day. So I decide when I'm going to get up in the morning, which for myself is 5 a.m., and therefore I'm in bed at 10 p.m. And that, in terms of my night routine, is what I am most consistent with. And I will say I try to allow myself some buffer. So I try to keep my circadian rhythm and all of these routines as much as possible, but I give myself about an hour window. So some nights I might go to bed closer to 11 and wake up closer to 6. And other nights I might go to bed closer to 9 and maybe wake up a little bit before 5. But I really try to keep it as consistent as possible. And that's really the flexibility that I tend to give myself. And I found that I'm really able to be highly functioning, feel really good about myself, and get everything done that I want to if I maintain sort of this 1 hour time block for myself. So I also found that if I cut off all my screen time about an hour before bed, I tend to fall asleep a lot easier. So I try to take the hour before bedtime to what I say get flossed, brushed, and washed, where I brush my teeth and wash my face. I try to do a little bit of meditation or some breathing exercises to calm down, and then I read a little bit. And that's sort of my way of telling my body, hey, it's time to go to bed. What I recommend to all my students is in that last hour before bedtime, you read your lecture notes. And I am going to do another video on lecture notes and the best way to take them and the best things that you can do with them, which I highly recommend is the number one place that you go to for your studies. But I really recommend that you read, especially the classes that you're struggling with the most, you read those notes right before bed. And you will be amazed at how much your brain goes to work for you while you sleep if you do this. That you will actually wake up in the morning with a stronger sense of understanding of what it is that you are reading. a higher memory recall for what you were reading. So, in my opinion, and the thing that I found the most successful and one of the most passive ways for me to really gain a firm understanding of my studies was to read my notes right before bed. So, take that hour to decompress, read the notes. They'll put you to sleep, so you'll fall asleep really easily. And you will, I used to have moments of clarity actually, where I ended up starting to keep a pen and paper by my bed because I would dream and just suddenly understand concepts that I was really struggling with. And then I would write down what I had understood. And so the next morning, if I had forgotten it, I could wake up and read it. And it was creepy. It was honestly really creepy how much my brain was working in my favor while I was sleeping to help me gather a firm grasp of this material. And this is so science backed, which I was really happy to hear. And I am going to go into that, but that's what I recommend you read before bed. And again, it doesn't have to be all your notes, just exams coming up or the classes that you're struggling with the most. And again, they'll probably put you right to sleep. So it's just kind of a nice trick in two ways. I try to stop all work 2 hours before bed. I don't really consider reading your next lecture notes part of work. For myself, I just, I try to get all of the work that I need to get done, all of my emails answered around 2 hours before bed. I watch a little bit of TV for an hour, turn that TV off an hour before my bedtime. And then again, I do this sort of 1 hour nightly routine to tell my body it's time to relax. And again, a lot of times my day just throws me off. So I don't always get my nightly routine in, but it's that bedtime that I really try to stick to so that I can make sure I'm up the next morning for my best, most productive day ever. And I always feel the best when I hit this morning routine. So I will say that, again, this is likely to change a lot as you go through the semester. I would say that it's good to start just thinking about it now. Try to ease closer and closer to some sort of natural bedtime and time that you wake up so that when the semester starts, you don't feel just completely jarred by this whole new schedule. And then when those first 4 to 6 weeks of classes happen, that's when you're going to figure out like, okay, this isn't really working for me. I'm going to set my bedtime a little bit later. I can spend a little bit more time in the morning doing whatever. I just would say that the best thing you can do for yourself is wake up at a time where you're not frantically running to class and starting your day off in this high anxiety panic moment of just rushing. So whatever amount of time that is that you need is how much time you should give yourself. And again, winging it is not going to work. It doesn't work for any of us. And I learned that routines build consistency, consistency builds habits, habits build a solid routine, and that's how you are going to find success in your life. And that is how you're going to be able to have some sort of balance in your life so that, again, you're not living on either extreme. And the extreme being wholly just into the college lifestyle or just completely living in academics. You want to be able to find some sort of balance with that. So that's really my suggestion for right now in terms of what you can start thinking about, in terms of how you can set yourself up for your best semester ever. And just some ideas in terms of what you can think about while you're putting all of this stuff into place for yourself. The last thing I'm going to say is I suggest that you try to figure out a routine that you are able to stick with 80 to 90% of the time. You don't need to be perfect to be awesome. You just need to make sure that you can be consistent. So figure out a way that you can be as consistent as possible in a way that allows you to feel as productive as possible. And again, gives you some sort of balance in your life. So what I'm going to talk about next time is how to start setting up a schedule for yourself. So what you can start thinking about in terms of time blocks between when your morning routine ends and when your night routine begins. And that is also going to be really important to allowing yourself to find balance in life and earn the GPA that you want. So that will be next week, and then school will start. And so that's why I just kind of wanted to bring these things up now so you can start thinking about them. Again, start easing into some sort of a schedule, trying to work on some sort of a routine so that when the semester starts, you're ready to go. You are not just completely changing everything about your life as soon as it begins, because that is going to be a rough beginning. If there are any topics you ever want me to talk about, I do have ideas for what I want to do. But if there's things that you want to address, always leave a comment. I'm happy to do some sort of short or do an entire video on it, even if it's not one of these 7 p.m. Monday times. But this will be the first of many. So I'm really happy for any suggestions. And I will, as the semester starts, do some that are much more academic related. Best way to take lecture notes, how to handle your reading, don't do your reading more than once would be one of the things that I really suggest. Um, Thinking about sleeping and how important that is for you. A lot of other, how to take exams. I have exam strategies, how to handle your study time, all geared towards you being able to live a balanced life, use these ingredients, create your own recipe for yourself so you can build an awesome life for yourself that you are proud of and really excited to live. So, thank you so much. First one, a little bit awkward, but I'm excited to do more. Have a wonderful night. Hopefully, I'll see some people next week.